up, guys? Out at the cabin here, Ronin man. We're going to do a little, just kind of, I'm doing my yoga, talking to my friend here. We're just talking about confidence, and he said something to me, and I started talking. I thought, hey, might be good for a Ronin episode. So here you go. Just general, we're going to go here on confidence. He's going to ask me a few questions. We're going to talk about it. Just imagine you're sitting by the fire with us.
Okay, so
you can hold it.
So confidence
Right into
is like the most valuable thing in the world for a man.
You think so?
It's the most important thing by far. Right?
Confidence.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Talk right into it.
Sure.
Put it right up. Yeah.
And, of all the people that I've known, you are one of the most confident guys, right?
Really? Why?
Sure, absolutely. Okay.
What is it about it?
It's just your attitude, right? And I know what your character defects are in large. I know like a lot about your history. I know what your character defects and shortcomings are pretty large, right?
Yeah.
So I know that you have confidence that is you're not at all restrained by your character defects and your failures, right? The confidence just completely overwhelms those, whatever shortcomings you have.
Now, this is from your perspective. Yeah, right.
So, I mean, like in Japanese, they have this expression, like they say, like groundless confidence. Okay, so you're one of unconditional.
Yeah.
It's unconditional confidence.
That's what
right?
you see. Yeah. Okay.
So, so the question is, and this is like a magic elixir for guys, right? Is where the fuck do you get confidence like that? Okay. What is the key to it, right? And so we've been talking here the last couple minutes about like, is it confidence? Is it just something that comes to you naturally? Like, are you just fucking born with it? Or is it based on your results, on achievements, on, overcoming obstacles in your life?
Yeah.
So let's hear it. What do you got to say?
Okay. So first thing is the outside impression is wrong. The idea that it's unstoppable, the idea that it's that confidence is that in spite like having character defects, but the confidence is like ignoring those somehow. That's kind of behind what you're saying. Is like how do you? Well, I think the question is different than what my skills are, but I'll still answer. You're saying like how do you have confidence despite not being good at things, right? That's kind of what it is. It's like, how do you have confidence no matter what, right? And
despite the fact that you have like some huge failings.
But despite huge failings, yeah. But that's not really the case. So what is it that? And it's a very good, honest question, because that is what you were thinking, right? So getting it out is like, I think a lot of guys, that's what we think. We know how we feel inside. And we see how other people look outside, and then we're trying to figure out like what is it? What are they? How does it work? For me, I'll talk about it. I don't have anything planned, so this is going to be super honest. So I don't know. It's very difficult to nail this one down for me. So I'm going to tell you, the way I think about it is okay. For example, things that give me that kind of deeper confidence, you're talking about like the more deeper stuff is it's funny things, and it I would say first it's based not on what you said. It's not based on it's funny, like it's so different. It's kind of like the difference when you look at a painting, right? You look at a painting and you see the painting and the painting, it looks like a whole picture, right? But if you look in very close at how he painting, like a lot of them, they're just painting dots, right? There's just dot, but all in the right format, and eventually it comes out to a picture. And I think my confidence is based on real things that I do. I never tried to get that confidence that you're talking about, because I never thought that was. I think most men have essentially no confidence at all at the core of it, So I don't think that any kind of overwhelming confidence scheme will work. So I'm very like it's very hands-on, very practical, specific dots. that create together, those dots make the confidence, right? So it looks like something, but the dots are something like, okay, and it's based on what I value. So it's not based on how I look or how I act or what people think. This is actually something that totally is from me. It's just inside me. Like it's just my thing. I have such a strange background, and I have such a eclectic background, and I've got into so many weird situations that when I meet people, or when they first even hear a video, but especially in person, often people think I'm a complete scammer when they first meet me. It's like a very common reaction. And well, the funny thing is, I'll have a lot of friends who will say to me, let's say after I know them like 2 years, they'll take me aside and they'll say, I got to tell you, like, I thought you were so full of shit when I first met you. Like, I thought you were interesting and I enjoyed being around you, but I thought you were lying about everything. And they said, like, after 2 years, like, not only do I believe you, but I literally believe everything you say. Like, I know that the way you are, and it's just like, you're not going to tell stuff that's not true. Like, there's no way. And you just, the way you're built. And so I thought when guys say that periodically to me, which it actually happens pretty often, I'm just amazed that they hung around me for 2 years if they thought that. And I'm amazed that I didn't realize that they thought that. You know what I mean? It's like kind of alarming for me to have somebody that I think is a friend and they actually don't believe anything I say. But I guess friendship is more complicated than that, right? So it's more than just believing that, something is real, So either way, they saw me as a valuable friend and hung out for 2 years. So, but what is it that is confident? It's those dots. Okay, so the dots are like this. Like, so for example, I like to do things, like for example, like yoga. Okay, this is a very interesting one because it's on my mind. I'm doing yoga right now. So it's like, it's a good one. I'll use this as an example. So when I look out in the yoga world, I had no interest in yoga ever. Nothing. Zero. It was a left wing kind of thing. I'm not right wing. I'm not left wing, but I saw it as a very extreme bunch of weird guys who just don't believe in reality or science or, I saw it as, I definitely did not see myself ever doing it. Right. So that was one thing. And then I had a friend, and then he was open a yoga studio. He invited me over, and he was a very cool guy. Right. He was a cool guy. So I went and supported his yoga thing. I had no intention of starting yoga at all. But then after I started to do yoga, and this guy's a drill sergeant. Okay. This guy's a drill sergeant. Like, I was alone with him. It was me, him, and his girlfriend. And he was saying, do this, do this, do this. And I was in serious pain when I was doing it because I'm not a flexible person. I'm not naturally flexible. I'm naturally strong. So people used to call me Bam Bam, like all the time when I was a kid. Like that character in the Flintstones. And so I was always Bam Bam, but I was not flexible at all. In fact, I'm inflexible. My mom is like inflexible, and I got it from my mom. We're both of us. We're just like the worst flexible. So like, not only did yoga not attract me mentally, or psychologically or whatever, intellectually, but it also didn't interest me because I thought I'm definitely going to be bad at it. It's going to be really embarrassing and suck, So there's no benefit. Plus, I saw it as kind of a lame exercise compared to lifting weights, which I like a lot. So that was kind of my mindset. So then then my friend started the yoga studio, and I did it. I just did it to support him. Like, if he would have had a comedy show, if he would have had a restaurant, if he would have had Japanese school, whatever, I would have gone just to support him, just because he's my friend. So I started going, and then, and so that's one. I'll come back to that, why that's important. Then the next thing is, he was a drill sergeant. Okay, so he would just say, "Do this now, go harder, lock your knee, do this," and he was super, super strict on me. And I grew up with it in a very strict environment, so that was common. I just thought that was normal. I didn't, and so then, but what happened was, he's a brilliant teacher to me, for my type of person, because he was very strict with me. He never let me, the poses are quite difficult actually, and you need to be very, You need to really focus to do them right. They look easy. They look like you can just generally, like when you lift weights, it's pretty general. You just basically lift it up, and there's form and everything. But it's like the difference between writing English and writing Chinese. It's difficult to write English, but it's much more difficult to write Chinese. It's just that it's so much more complex, and it's so much more memory and everything. Even for Chinese, it's so difficult. Like people keep learning characters till the day they die. We learn the alphabet once, right? You know, there's so many aspects of Chinese that make it more difficult to write than English. Yoga's like that. Yoga is more like that. And weightlifting is more like English, you know. There is form. Obviously there is great pros and there is great writers and there's a huge, you know, they're world class. So those great writers are right up there with the greatest writers of any language, right? So I'm not saying that I'm not putting down English in any way. I'm just saying it is easier to learn. That's why it's getting to be a global language, because you can learn it, right? It's not impossible to learn. Chinese, you have to have some kind of skill to get good at it. It's really hard, right? So, and I can't write. Everybody knows. I can read a little bit, but I'm terrible. I'm not a writer. I'm a speaker. So either way, so then I was alone with him and his girlfriend pretty much, and we would just sit there, and he never let me know the truth is that in the first class, his class is so hard that most people leave after like 20 minutes and never come back. But he never told me that. So I was alone with him like his captive, right? And he's just like pushing me to do stuff. And I'm just like struggling. And I'm just like, this sucks. Hurts, this is hard, but I kept doing it because I wanted to support his school originally. So that went on for a while. And then the studio started to grow. So other people started to come. And then the newcomers, they would leave after a few minutes. They would, they'd be all shaking and they'd go outside. They'd come back for a few minutes. They'd go back outside. They considered it optional, right? And I was like blown away. So I said to my teacher, Charlie, I said, hey, what about, what's up with these guys? And then he finally broke down and said, hey, that's what most people do. He goes, you were different. And I'm thinking, I was different. I didn't have a choice. I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't know I could walk out, But it is my personality to stick in, right? So I stuck in. And then after a certain period of time, I started to actually see improvement and realize that I have my strength is important in yoga. So it's not like I'm not good at yoga. It's just I'm not flexible, right? So I started to see more realistically myself, right? And that I did have things that were good for yoga, I thought I was no good at anything at all. No, I was shit for yoga, period. That was it. There was no way that I knew anything or was good at anything that was going to match with yoga. But it turned out to be not the case. So let's just go back to these three things. They all gave me confidence. Because first thing is because the most difficult thing is to change your mind. It's very difficult to change your mind and change your thinking. So my mind was set that yoga was a certain way. Now, it's not that way. But in my mind, it was. It's very difficult to change these things, I know. Most people even listening, it's so difficult to change. It's so difficult that most people never do it. They just continue thinking whatever they're thinking, and they double down on the truth of whatever they think is true. And they ignore everything else. So for me, when I see myself, it's like the dot. It's gritty. It's hard. It's not easy. I feel stupid. You know what I mean? Like when I'm wrong about something or I see something wrong, it's so hard for me to change, but I somehow grind it out and do it. And I come out the other side much more balanced person because I can see, I'm not saying yoga is great. I can't even go to most yoga classes because they talk about chakras and all this bullshit that's just crazy. It's just, there's so much nutty stuff in yoga. It's almost like drives me insane. Like I can't even when I was in Vegas, I went to I had a yoga studio thing, and it was even difficult to talk to some people because they were so different than me, So I'm not saying that ever changed, but what I found too at the same time is that these people that are very, very different than me, when we were both finished with our class and we're sweating and we're done and we took a shower, you're in a very bliss state, very peaceful. because you've released a lot of endorphins. It's like a runner's high times 10. And you're you're feeling very, very good. Like you're just sitting there like, it's a feeling you don't get anywhere else. Let's put it that way. So that's how we all feel. So both of us, even though we, would have different opinions on a lot of stuff, especially on Ronin Man, right? But everybody like really enjoys each other's company. And I can really listen to what they're saying. I don't have to agree. I don't agree with it, but they, I can just sit there and I can just, I realize that these people are more than their opinions. They have a physical body. And that's what yoga is, a physical body. So when you think about sex, or when you think about longevity, or when you think about youth, or when you think about energy or whatever, being able to rise to the physical challenge of any task. And yoga is that. And these people, like, we can have that in common. Like, we don't have to have anything else in common. And so that process, it takes away. Okay, this is different. I realize now. What I'm talking about now is I had a house that had no foundation. Okay. In this case, I was wrong. The house was built on a swamp. Okay. And so what I did is I went in afterwards, because in this story, in this metaphor, you can't take the house down. So I would go under the house with some wood and some concrete and start putting it under the house and building the base of the house. Because I realized, I was wrong about this. I misunderstood this. I had this misconception. So I start putting things under the house to kind of bolster it, make it stronger, right? And so the house ends up being more stable, because understanding and being honest with yourself and seeing the world in a balanced way makes you more powerful. It is the absolute foundation of confidence, is that you do not, to understand this, you have to understand that most people, the reason why they don't have confidence is because they base their life on things that are like not completely true, and maybe used to be true for them, and maybe they did because they learned from childhood, or they grew up in a certain culture, or they have limited experience, or they had somebody who really hurt them, or they have some reason. Most people's belief systems about things is very, very shaky. And so if you talk to them too much, they get very angry, because they can't really dialogue with people on their debate. That's why everybody's so angry now politically, because most people they don't really, the foundation is not as strong as it could be, right? The understanding of life, and so admitting that my ability to every time that I go into something, now I'm still the same person. Okay, I'm exactly the same person as before, in many ways. But also, I can actually sit down with some guys after a yoga class, and we can all sit there and really, really, truly enjoy the moment. And I'm telling you, these guys are very different than me. I'm not exaggerating. Like, these guys are extremely different. Their viewpoints are just as most extreme as you can think of. They could be total SJWs, like hardcore. If they knew about me, they might want to put me in jail. You know what I mean? Like that. They could be very different than me. Very, very different. But at the same time, I realize I see through that. I see them as humans, even though they're completely different, and they would hate me if they knew me even, maybe. And I'll give you another example. So there was a Japanese guy on my street, and I would say hi to him and all that, and be nice to him, And he had this like nice little house they kept good care of. His house was very well kept up. He was sweeping it every day and cleaning. He would even wipe the leaves, to get the dust off the leaves in his garden, So it was very pretty, And so I would watch him, and I thought, that guy is amazing. Like, he's so old, but he just, look at his house. It's just so, it's not that I value cleaning houses to myself. My mind is like a garbage dump. My house is always dirty. So, I have a very messy desk. I've always had a messy desk in my mind, in my house, everywhere. So it's not that I'm saying that I valued. I saw the extreme value, but I saw something else in the guy. Just there was a caring about things. He cared, you know, and he cared about the neighborhood, and he cared about stuff, you know, and he cared about his wife. He had a wife, you know, and he would take care of her. So I saw that good in him. Now, but I also knew that he didn't like me. He didn't like foreigners, right? And so one day I was telling somebody about him in the neighborhood, you know, that I think he's a good guy. And they said, well, you know, that guy hates you, right? You know, that guy absolutely hates foreigners. Like, he doesn't want you here. He wants you to leave. Yeah. This guy does not like you. And so they thought they were telling me something new. But I already sensed that he didn't like me personally, you know. And I figured it could have been foreigners. It could have been any reason. I didn't know why. I figured it was probably foreigners because he didn't know me. And so I thought about it afterwards. I thought I don't really care. Like, I really don't care. Like, I still think he's a great guy, right? Like, I respect the things he does, the way he cleans and cares about the neighbor, takes care of his wife. All that stuff is the same as before. It's just that he hates foreigners, right? You know, is what I hear, and that's the feeling I get too. So I think it's pretty accurate, right? So he hates foreigners. He wanted me to move at the time, right? So whatever. But the thing is, my judgment of him is not in response to his judgment of me. His judgment of me is his judgment, right? My judgment's my judgment. I still think he's a great guy, you know. And whether he likes me and trying to kick me out of the neighborhood, that doesn't really bother me. Now, I'm not saying I'm not superhuman. I'm just saying that this is truly how I felt about this guy. And my life is a lot like that. So I just take people, the good, I look at them and I see them and I take the good, and I just realize that you're not going to have everything in common with everybody. And so I think that the ability to change when I know it's very difficult gives me a lot of confidence, because I know that when I run into a new challenge that's going to be difficult for my brain, is that I won't like it. It's going to suck, but I probably will do it. I probably will change when I see a new challenge, you know. And then also, I think my confidence comes from a deeper, if I liked him based on the fact that he liked me, or let's say he was just like me, he rode a motorcycle, he did everything like me, that's a very weak, that's just a very, like, it's like a straw man. It's like a very paper cutout fucking, I mean, it's not very deep, you know. Like, then if he changes, then I change, right? Everything is just so, I don't know. Like, I think most people, their thinking and their confidence and their view on life is very fragile. It's just waiting for someone to poke them and they just explode, you know. So for me, I know that I'm not perfect. He can't, no one can make me explode, because it's not skin deep. It's not just some, it isn't like, there's roots to my ideas, like to my thinking, to my confidence, you know. So like, another person's opinion would be their opinion, and I listen to that, and I would notice that if everybody that I know starts telling me something, the same thing, that's very negative about myself, I will take that very seriously, because I'll say, wait a second. Now, sometimes I will not listen, because I will say to myself, like Galileo or something, if I see something and I really understand it, I don't care what everybody thinks, because I discovered it first. So that's one of my goals in life, is to see things before anybody on the planet, to understand something for the very first time. And that is really what I value. It's one of the things I value, is to see something first. Even if everybody killed me, and I was never appreciated for that, and nobody ever remembered, I wouldn't even give a fuck at all. Because that's what I value. That's what I want to find out. What is the real truth here? Like, what is really going on with this thing? You know, and then I'm in my own world on that completely. And because I have that thing I value. And so the reason why people feel bad about themselves or whatever, because they're basing it on what other people think about them. Right? So if everybody thinks I'm crazy, then I would feel bad. Or if I wear a certain shirt that is not cool, then I would feel bad, right? But if I like the shirt, So I think it's another dot. Oh, let's see, what the other thing? So, okay, so knowing that I have the ability to change my mind on very difficult things that most people can't do gives me a confidence. Because it gives me a stability and a belief that tomorrow's going to be okay, right? Because no matter how dumb my ideas are now, they're going to improve. Because I'm going to look at something and see and do the work it takes to change, right? The next thing is that I had the discipline to keep going on yoga when it was hard. And then that gives me confidence because I'm like, it's not that I'm great at yoga. It's just that I was really not good, and it was really hard. And I kept doing it. And so when I see other people give up so easy on things, it blows me away, I'm just like, it's kind of better I don't know how lame people are, like how easy they give up on things. Because I just continue and keep going, and then when I'm done, then I'm like, oh, you mean that most people don't do this? You know what I'm saying? Like James Heisig wrote the book Understanding the Kanji, I think, or whatever. James Heisig, and he actually went into his it was a cabin like this, actually, I think. He went away from the city and he just basically learned the characters all by himself. And he came back, he made his own system, and then he came back to his school. Because here's what happened. I really like this story. He went to Japanese school, and he said, he's full of piss and vinegar, right, young guy. He said, how do you learn, what's hard about Japanese, speaking or writing? And they said, well, the writing is much more difficult than the speaking. And they said, but you can't join the class now because it's the middle of the semester. You have to come back next semester. So he had like 3 months, 4 months. So he said, okay. So and they said the writing is the most difficult. So he said, okay. So he went off in the mountains and he just started saying, how can I learn these languages? He bought all the books, but they didn't make sense to him. They didn't seem to work for him. He didn't have a Japanese teacher. And so he made up his own system for memorizing the meaning of the characters. He didn't know one word in Japanese, but he knew the meaning of all the characters. He learned all 2,000 characters in 3 or 4 months. And then he came back to the school and he said, I know the meaning of all the characters now, but I don't know the Japanese word for them. And the teachers were like laughing, like, yeah, no one does that. Like, what? That's ridiculous. And he said, well, we'll just say something. And they said, well, acupuncture doctor. So he writes it up, and then whatever it was, he just wrote it, everything, And they were like, what the fuck? Who is this guy, right? And they thought he was a genius, but he didn't have any money, okay? And he didn't have anybody helping him. And he found his own way to do something, partly because he didn't know how. It wasn't until he got back to Tokyo that he realized how important what it was that he did. He's the only guy who ever did what he did. He just made up this new thing, partly because he didn't know how impossible it was to do. I think that to me is like awesome. Like these kind of guys, I love these kind of stories. And this is the way I think. I think James Heisig is the most awesome guy. Just because of that story. It's just And if you read his book and you see it, it's not bullshit. The guy's got a great system, right? Now, I was not disciplined with writing, and I never followed it all the way through. So, in some ways, I'm total hypocrite with this, because I learned the first 500 in like 2 days, and then I'm not a writer. I just don't like writing that much, I'm a people person. I'm not read a book, sit by myself. I'll do it. And especially I'll do it for Ronin, man. I'll read a fucking book all the way through 10 times to get the idea totally, and then I'll tell what it is. But to be honest, I like audiobooks. I don't like reading at all. I don't like writing, even though I can write, because I had some very tough teachers that forced me to write. So I can write if I have to. If there's a gun to my head, I could write a good book, actually. But I hate it. It sucks. And maybe I'm breaking my own thing. But that's the whole point. Is that I'm not perfect. I'm terrible. Like I don't follow my own rules with writing. If I did what I'm saying with writing, which maybe that's why I mention it. Maybe I'm getting ready to do it. If I do that and I become a good writer, that would be something that would be very incredible for me. because it is a discipline kind of thing, writing, it really is. But I know that I haven't done it, but with a lot of things I do it. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe my next stage might be to learn to be a great writer, actually. Try to write a famous book, That's possible. Because that would be extremely painful. I can't think of anything more boring and painful than that. Now, I know there's going to be benefits like yoga in the end, but I just there's a level of things you hate and there's a level of things you like. This is on the extreme side. Yeah. But maybe the fact that I'm saying it, actually, I think I might actually, possibly, I don't want to promise, but possibly this might be my next thing. Because it's been driving me crazy for 40 years because I'm just the worst writer. But I can write if I have to, So either way. But it is those challenges and the knowledge that I know I could be a good writer. I know I could. I absolutely know I could. But I would have to go through this process and I don't want to, right? But I have the confidence because I've done it so many times in things like this, So what brings confidence is that knowledge that, and it might be because I had a strict upbringing, because nobody let me get away with anything, There was the bad side, but there was the good side. Like I was called out on anything I didn't do fully, Like, you know what I mean? Regardless of what other kids did. If I didn't do it, I was an idiot, And that made me think, okay, I don't want to be an idiot. So I'd put that extra effort in, right? I was forced to, right? And in the end, that is kind of a good thing in a way, for kids, to have that. So I think that those two things, or those things would be, I would say, two of the fundamentals in my thinking, right? Is that those things. Okay, so when it comes to women. Okay, so confidence with women. Okay. What confidence? Again, it's like that picture that's actually dots. I wouldn't say I have confidence in every scenario with every woman. That's for sure. But I would say, let's see, how does it work? Okay, I look in this one. I look for things to hang my hat on. So sometimes you need to give yourself a little bit of a boost, So I look back at my own history, and I think of the things that I did well with women. Look, like when there's a bee fucking right next to me. He's like trying to bite me or something. I just swatted this bee away. We're up in the mountains here in Japan, and it's a beautiful day, and there's this bee is harassing me. So with women, I look back at the things I did well, and I remember those. I remember those kind of things, and that helps me. I think probably one of the things that I do, I would say that gives me the most confidence with women is counterintuitive. It's that I know that it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. So it just doesn't matter that much, So it's like, if it matters a lot to you, then it's really hard to have confidence because you're gonna fail, right? I think you're gonna fail, right? You're definitely gonna fail. If you think it's so important to get this girl's number or to get this girl in bed, or if she does this or does that, and for me, like, I like women. I mean, you guys know that, I like people, but at the same time, I don't put up with any shit. But I think that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like I'm here with my friend. We're up in the cabin. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful day, and I think that aspect of life is important. Okay, I think that men do need some kind of confidence in relationships. Just the knowledge that they've got some skills, right? This fucking bee is driving me insane. Did he come inside? I just closed the door here. I think I got rid of the bee. Whew! That bee was driving me crazy. Let me see if I can get him. So let me think here. So, what does it matter, right? Women, and I don't want to don't get me wrong. I'm not saying women don't matter. Okay, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. So what am I saying here? It doesn't matter. Okay, let me think. Would be a good example here. It's difficult to think of something for this one, but I mean, does it matter? Does it matter that you took one more vacation? Does it matter that you ate one more banana? Does it matter that you slept one more hour 2 years ago? Like, most things don't matter. It's not like we're on the razor's edge of annihilation at every moment and everything's super important. Like, in the end, like, just stay alive, guys. That's all you got to do. Stay alive, don't die. Because if you die, the game's over. That's why you want to stay healthy. So you have time to try again, because the mistakes you make, they're just right now. Like, you can go, like, just stay alive. That's all you got to do. And if you keep trying, keep improving, and you stay alive, then you will you will get to a new stage, right? It's like this. It's like, I always think of this thing, right? I rode this inner tube down this river, right, in the jungle. I rented this inner tube for like $1.50, and we went down the jungle, down the river, and it was very exciting because we didn't know how long it was going to go. We didn't know if we were going to go off a waterfall. There were snakes everywhere. There was a frog that was probably close to 1 kilogram that ended up inside my shirt somehow. And I thought that could have been a snake. And there was cobras, and it was just crazy, How did this fucking bee get over here? He got inside. The bee's over there somewhere. Yeah. I don't know how the hell he got inside. Which window did he come in? Let's go out here. So let me think here. So it just doesn't matter that much. It's not like it's not like you're going to be remembered for this, or you're going to look better or something. It's important in the sense that people are important, right? But it's you're not branded anything, You're not forever anything, You might not have been good at pickup when you were young, but then now you're older and you are good, right? And you are. I've seen you. You've got skills. So you're 60, right? So it's not something that if you would have said, okay, I'm no good at it, and you're 20, that would have been stupid, because it ends up that you're good at it, because it's especially hard the older you get, you know what I mean? So if you're 60, you can do it. I mean, that right there is a lot, right? So I think that is that you have to realize that it doesn't define you, I guess, is what I'm saying. It doesn't define you forever. Like, it changes.
So let me cut you for a minute.
Okay.
Confidence.
Yeah.
How do you regain your confidence after you've been kicked in the balls by a woman, after suffering like a huge failure in a relationship?
Okay. So after like a major torpedo, right? Like the ship takes a major torpedo. That's the way I think about it. Yeah. So you're taking in water like crazy. You got hit by the torpedo. You are really in pain. Now, a few episodes ago, I did one where I cried for like 15 minutes. So the guys know that I when it comes to my weaknesses or my real feelings, I put them out there, right? So I'll say that I'm not saying that there's some kind of magic for getting over it. Okay, again, it's like the dots. It's the little things. It's the work. It's the discipline. It's the study to find out what I should be doing to get to the Because like if I would have done the wrong sport and got really good instead of yoga, I wouldn't have had the same benefits, because the benefits of yoga are bigger than the benefits of archery. You know, there's benefits of archery, but there's not the same benefits, right? So it's a number of small things. So each I would say that each time, and I've been torpedoed many times in life by businesses, by people, by business partners, by the stock market, by everything. Like I've been ripped off like a million times and driven back to zero. So what I do in this case, and again, each one is different, right? What I do is, well, the first thing is I go back to not taking myself too seriously, that it doesn't matter that much, you know, like it's okay. It's gonna change. Oh yeah. So back to the sorry. Why did I say Indonesia story? The reason why I said it is because when I took the inner tube down the river, okay, as I floated down the river, I went over a small waterfall, okay, and I was very worried there was going to be more waterfalls after that. Then I found the huge frog in my back, inside my shirt, and I pulled it out. It scared the crap out of me because I thought, well, that could have been anything, right? And then I went over a tree section where I ran into the trees, and the trees scratched me in the face because we were going fast. So when I hit the trees, I'm not kidding, like it was dangerous. Like the lawyers don't exist in 1980s Indonesia, right? So when I was going down this thing, this was crazy. Like they would never do this in America, ever. You know, on the inner tube, you don't have any ability to steer. So you just get thrown over rocks, and your ass hits rocks like so hard that it gives you a Charlie horse, you know? And it just like, it's pretty hardcore. It was hardcore, right? So, but what I realized as I floated down that river, because we ended up having to float down the river for a long time, like 2 hours, to get to the bridge where we were going to get a taxi back or a bus back in the jungle, right? And so as I went, I suddenly realized all of a sudden that like I hit this long section after all these rough sections, like trees in the eyes, you know, rocks hitting my ass, you know, worried about snakes, you know, too fast, worried about waterfalls. All of a sudden we hit this very peaceful long section at the end, and it was beautiful. The sun came out because the jungle was so thick that the sun didn't even go through the jungle until this section. And there was like almost like long grass on the side of the river, you know, and all of a sudden it felt totally different. And I thought, this is the metaphor for life. You know, this is how life is. You don't know what's coming next. You get poked in the eye. You get a rock in the ass. You get you know, a huge, you know, a wild animal in your shirt. You know, you're scared. You're out of control. You're just going down this river, and you don't know when it's going to end. You don't know if you're going to die. You know, all these things, right? And then suddenly, it's like picturesque, perfect. It's like the sun comes out. It's very slow. It's very beautiful. It was very wide, you know. And so whenever I go through those big takedowns by girls or business or life, I remember that this is just a phase. I will be floating. This is the poke in the eye phase, or the rock in the ass. Actually, the rock in the ass was the worst because there was no way to see it, and it really hurt. Oh, it really would hit the bone, yeah. And you had to hold on tight. So you had to have your ass down because if you let go of the inner tube, you're going to be in bad shape because there was no way out of the river. You know, once you got on that river, you were going down. You were not going to be able to swim to the side or whatever. And I was with a friend anyway, so I probably could have swum to the side because I'm a good swimmer, but I couldn't have left him. And what would I do in the middle of the jungle with no shoes on? You know, very dangerous, right? I'd have to walk for a week to get to that bridge, you know. So I'm like, I couldn't do that. So I just kept going down, right? So this is what gives me confidence, is that I know, and this is what I say to you guys, is that don't give up. You know, that's the main thing. No matter how stupid you look for a period of time, no matter how big the mistake is, no matter how much you think that it's only you, no one else would do that you look like a fool to everybody thinks you're an idiot, it's just a temporary thing. To hold on to the inner tube for longer. I mean, there's things you can do, which I definitely do, a lot of stuff hard work, and I really actively work on overcoming whatever my new obstacle is, whatever my torpedo was. I work on fixing that hole in my ship, right? But sometimes it's the best you can do is just to hold on, just hold on, and so knowing where does confidence come from that? How does confidence come out of that? Is because you realize that when you get through something and you survive, and I don't mean just like alive, because a lot of guys are alive, but they're not alive. They're dead years ago. They've given up. They're just bitter. They hate everybody. They hate women. They hate this. They've given up. They've totally given up on trying. They've given up on everything. And so that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying being alive, I survived and now I hate everybody and I don't trust anybody. And, I survived. No, that's not surviving to me. That's walking zombie. That is not living. That might be a necessary phase for people. Okay, don't get me wrong. Sometimes denial is very strong and these things can be very complicated and convoluted and difficult. But in general, is that you should gain wisdom from things. That's how you should improve yourself. These things are put in your way. They're in your path. And these are what you learn from. In the end, you can only be in one place in the world. You can't be in two places. I learned that in high school. I wanted to be at two parties so bad. One, I wanted to be in Brazil at the big festival, and then there was another festival. I wanted to be at both. And I realized, oh my gosh, no matter how rich I am, I can never be in two parties at once. I was like, no way. I have to be in one place. And so I have to be with whoever I'm with, standing wherever I'm standing. And then I realize, because somehow you think when you watch TV or whatever, movies, you think that other guys can be anywhere. Actually, they're just there too. And you realize that we're all just a bunch of fools just in one place with limited quality everything. Everybody's stuck in one place. And maybe they're not happy with their girlfriend, their wife, their job, their friends, the money situation. They're not, that's life. We're all kind of like in a situation. We're all stuck there, right? We're all stuck wherever we're stuck, right? The idea is that you start seeing all these different people. You think you can have all those things. I think a lot of girls do this too with guys. They see a guy, they want a rich guy who's actually very in great shape. And he's also very good at sex. And he's also magnanimous. And he's very good with, he does everything. He does this, he does that. He cleans, he does this. He's a genius. He knows math. He's good at speaking. He's very sensitive. He's fearless. He could just shoot somebody in the head if he had to. He could beat an intruder to death. He also is very inquisitive and very good humor. And he has a lightheartedness to him. And, he writes poetry very well, and, he understands animals, completely, and can raise a garden and makes everybody her friends, impresses her friends. I mean, the list just goes on, right? And so girls see all these guys and they want one guy who has everything, right? But that doesn't, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but that's just like, that's the same thing of wanting to be in two places at once is the best cure for that. And men can do this too. But the best cure for that, the very best cure, is to be honest with yourself about how lame your life is. As soon as you can admit how many mistakes you make and how lame your life is and how many weaknesses you have, you stop expecting perfection in everybody else. That's why people want perfection, because they don't admit their own weaknesses. As soon as you admit your own weaknesses, it's kind of impossible to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of impossible to expect the world from everybody, because you're like, wait a second, I can't. My handwriting sucks. Like you know what I mean? Like, I never took the discipline to write. That's true story. My handwriting is terrible. Like, talk about something easy and simple. I just never. I'm terrible at handwriting. And I can't write Japanese. I can't write Chinese. There's so many limitations I have that I can't do, and it's my fault. It's not like I'm born, too short or something. Just my fault. I didn't, and I make mistakes, So when I'm learning something, I might get angry. I might be, So I see myself. I was like, okay, I'm full of flaws. Okay, I flaws like crazy. Okay, so let's be realistic about my friends. Let's be realistic about the girls. Let's be realistic about what we expect from our parents, right? Because they're also like that. So the best way to get comfortable with other people is to see yourself better. This is the best way to change the world by your own eyes, your own vision, is when you start to just really accept who you are and accept how difficult it is to change those things too. That's the other thing. That's the other thing to think about. Not just that you have these faults, like, oh, poor me, I have these faults. It's more like, what would I have to do to get this? Ooh, to get that, to get good at that would require all this work and all this time, which would mean not doing these other things. So a lot of times what happens when you see your faults and then you honestly realize you have them, sometimes you realize in the end they weren't really faults. Because you say, this is the paper thin confidence. It's like, I can do anything. And then the things you can't do, you secretly know you could do and you should do. But then when you actually face them, you say, okay, enough of this crap. I have flaws like crazy. What are my flaws? Like, I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at that. I hurt this person's feelings. I was not listening to this person, and then you get the empathy for other people, right? But then also you say, okay, all right. I'm not good at writing, right? So now, what is it going to take for me to get good at writing? How much work is it going to be? How much time, how much money, how much work? And then when you start to get it on paper, a lot of times what happens is you say, well, the reason why I'm not doing this is because there's something else that I want to do more. And so that releases you from that. Because you suddenly realize that you're not lazy or stupid. You actually just have different values. And you value something else more. And so discovering that frees you from the insecurity of having to hate everybody who's good at what you're not good at. Is it because the jealousy, the insecurity, the envy, the longing, the feel sorry for yourself, it all goes away when you realize that you made a pretty rational choice, a lot of things, to be the way you are. When you start looking at yourself honestly, it's not like you're gonna be whipping yourself. A lot of it is going, wait a second, holy moly, I know exactly why I didn't do that. The reason why I didn't do that is because I was raised where everybody told me that if you didn't do this, you're a loser. But actually, I don't think people that don't do that are a loser myself. I have friends that don't do that. I respect them very much. Why do I still think this stupid idea from childhood, from this limited group of people I was around, that where they thought, why do I hold myself to this stupid standard which I don't even agree with? I was feeling bad about something that I don't even agree with. Like I should do this, I should do that, things that I don't even want to do. And I don't want to make the compromise to do them, right? So confidence comes from realizing that, from having the balls, to go in there and say, what am I not good at? What am I good at? What can I do? What can I not do? Right? And then to accept yourself. And then at the same time, for myself, it's that iron discipline to go do it anyway. I was going to do a discipline episode. I think discipline is the number one key to confidence, myself. I don't believe what people say that other things are confident. I think discipline will give you the most confidence of anything. Now, a flexible, open mind is key too, because you can get stubborn where, like I said, you're doing something that you don't actually care about and you're being super disciplined about it. And in the end, it's going to mean shit to you. You're becoming a doctor, but you actually don't like people, you don't like working with the sick people all day. You'd actually rather be on television recording a commercial, or you'd rather be driving a submarine at the bottom of the ocean, or you'd rather be teaching children, right? It's like whatever. So that's a big danger there. So knowing yourself gives you confidence, knowing your weaknesses, admitting it, and just each time knowing you're up for the challenge, right? And then, but I think back to the when you get the torpedo, when you get hit by the torpedo, I think that sometimes you just have to fucking hold on. Don't hurt yourself. I mean, realize that nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I don't mean that in the negative sense. I mean in the positive sense. Okay, I said this in the legacy episode, but think about this. Okay, you know your parents' names, right? You know your grandparents' names. Do you know your great-grandparents' names? Okay. How about your great-great-grandparents? Where did they go to school? What's their names? What were their personalities like? How about the great-great-great-grandparents just behind them? I'm not talking about a big deal here. This is no big deal. You know hundreds of celebrities. So who are these people in your own family? Like what legacy did they give you that benefited your life, that they passed on to the great-great-grandparent and then to the grandparent? You don't know. You don't even know the name of people just a few generations ago in your own family. Not to mention who they are. Knowing their name is shit. Like I know a lot of people's names. It doesn't mean I know them, right? So it's even much worse than that. Knowing their name is like, oh my gosh, I know my great-great-great-great-great-grandparents' names. So what? That's not knowing them. That's not knowing shit. So the reality is that you will soon be forgotten. Nobody's going to remember you. And it's not a conspiracy. It's not terrible. You are the same way. You don't even remember people in your own fucking family. So how can you remember other people and other families to remember you? Or the world to remember you? You don't even remember people, right? We're all temporary here, So knowing that and kind of like just accepting like more of the reality of life, because I think what like a lot of guys are trying to do is they're trying to make the impossible happen, I just thought of one example, but Jim Thompson, right? He was a CIA guy in Thailand. And he was interested in silk. And he bought all this silk and he started the silk company. And then a lot of people think he got murdered, right? He went out to the jungle and never came back, never found his body. He was very rich. And so, Jim Thompson silk is a big brand in Thailand now. Every mall has a Jim Thompson silk shop, right? And you can go to his house. I've been to his house a couple times. You can go to his house, you can hear the stories. But we remember a lot about Jim Thompson. Okay. But a lot of the stuff that we remember about him, he was actually gay, right? But no one knew that originally, right? That's why he was into silk, he was into design, he was into colors, he was into Thai guys, right? So that's what he was doing, right, in Thailand. So it could have been a lover's spat, it could have been a business spat, it could have been a robbery, it could have been a big government thing, who knows? But it probably was something to do with money, I'm guessing, He was rich, right? And so we remember him. But do we remember him? Let's just say, I tell me all about your best friend. You write it all down, you tell me. And then I ask your best friend, is this what you care about the most? It's very unlikely that your best friend's going to agree with you. He's probably going to say, oh, that's what people think about me, but I actually don't. I actually value this or I value that. Just like you've known me for years and you thought my confidence was like this or based on this. It was actually totally wrong, right? But you still think that, right? Or you thought that. So we think that even about our friends, we don't understand them. If we had to write a book about our friend without asking them, they'd probably totally disagree with the book. They probably would hate the book. They'd say, that's not really me. That's the way people think about me. Like a lot of people think of me as Surfer Paul, right? But for myself, I'm not a very good surfer. I surfed my whole life, but I never got good. I never had talent. I sucked, and that's embarrassing for me, right? I always hate being on the water and knowing that I surfed for so long and I'm so terrible, right? But a lot of people think of me as Surfer Paul, or maybe they saw my one good wave or something like that and they tell people, but it's not true. Like I know the truth, right? And so the way I'm remembered in life is not actually the way I want to be remembered, right? So Jim Thompson, if he could come back and see all these stories written about him, he would probably go ballistic because he'd be like, that's so full of crap. Like that wasn't me at all. Like that is a total lie. What are you guys doing? That was actually what I hated. And the guy who killed me, he was the one who had that narrative. And he's the guy who made that narrative. And then he couldn't do it when I was alive, but he did it when I was dead. The bastard, right? Something like that he might say, right? He's like, no, that's stupid. I wasn't into money. I was into this. I was into that. I did this because of this reason. He's going to have a totally different thing. So what I'm saying, a long way to say, is even with the people that society remembers, okay, quote unquote, they remember a bunch of bullshit about them that the original people, if they could come back from the dead, they would probably disagree with. they'd probably say, well, it's nice of you to think that, but actually that's not the way I really was. That was what I put on at the time, because it was the 1800s or whatever, in the 1900s. And that's why I acted that way, because you couldn't be this other way at that time. But actually, if I was born now in the internet age, I would be totally this way and that way, and actually felt this way. And I would be like this, right? These people that you think you remember, you don't even remember them. And the other people, you don't even remember their names. So I'm not saying that as a nihilism. I'm just saying that is actually, I'm in the forest now, right? There's trees everywhere. Do we remember the trees that used to be here? The trees before these trees? It's the natural, it's what life is. It's just a never-ending flow, like on that river. 1 minute you're getting poked in the eye. Next minute you're getting an ass in the rock in the ass, and the next minute you're floating in absolute heaven, and you feel like on top of the world, and you feel like you own the whole planet, and for $1.50. That's what that inner tube rental cost me, right? So that's life. So just basically, my confidence comes from the fact that I know that I'm, so for example, with women, like you go in, no one's going to remember anything that you're doing anyway. Okay, they're not going to remember your name. So if you want to talk to women, just go up and talk to them. You know what I mean? And if they turn you down, it doesn't matter. It doesn't brand you. You're not a cow with a brand. You wake up the next morning, it's a new day. No one remembers. No, the next day, no one's going to remember that you failed with this one girl. And even if the girl has a terrible opinion of you, no one really, you know what I mean? Like, does it really matter what other people think about you? Really? I know that it hurts you, and I know that we're human. I'm not saying that. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to be really pissed off about it and really angry about it and really feel bad about it. That's normal. But look at it from another perspective. Is in 3 or 4 generations, is anyone going to remember that you talked to this girl and she said bad things about you to people, No, right? No one's going to remember, right? So it's important to know that when you talk to women, is that it's just temporary. It's like a virtual reality or something, and then you'll learn and get better. So I think the confidence partly comes from knowing it doesn't matter. Partly comes from finding the things that I did do successfully and hang my hat on that. Partly my confidence comes from the fact that I can accept my own weaknesses, And so, and then it also comes from knowing that what somebody else says about me is not me. And I don't mean that in the reactive sense. I mean that it literally is not me. Like I am the one who decides who I am. I decide if I'm going to change. I decide, other people's opinions, I shouldn't say that. It's not, that one's not black and white, because sometimes other people can see you better than you can see yourself, right? So there is that aspect. There was a hilarious Onion article, and it was, man mistakenly thinks he's still in the closet, right? And they said to the guy, he said, oh, I can't tell people, they won't accept, my friends won't accept it, And then they interview his friends, and his friends are like, this is a spoof, it's a comedy, right? The Onion, right? And then his friends are like, everybody knows he's gay, why doesn't he just tell people? And then they go back to him, he's like, my friends are just too close-minded, they couldn't handle it. That's a lot how life is, though. You know what I mean? Like, we think that other people don't know, but they actually know. Already. They already know, Like, my friends already know that I'm not good at a lot of things, and they still accept me anyway, And so, that just, it's okay. Like, you're not hiding. I think hiding things is the best way to not have confidence. Personally, I think hiding things is one of the most destructive things guys can do. And it's because it's that paper thin confidence thing, where poke a guy and he explodes. You don't want to. You want to be a kind of guy who can take those hits and then just go off and limp off in the fucking sunset for a while, and then just figure it out again, and then say, okay, I'm just gonna keep on going here. I'll hold on to the inner tube for a while. I'll do some things. I'll try to improve myself. I'll try to figure this out. I'll try to see what I did wrong to get myself in that situation. I'll see where my beliefs are based on. Like, maybe I'm thinking I'm bad based on something that I don't even believe, that I actually just accepted from my parents or from society or from my religion or whatever, or maybe it was an old idea that I don't believe anymore. Sometimes when you get hit by a torpedo, it can be the biggest gift ever because it gets you out of the situation. So a lot of times getting hit by a torpedo, it's painful, but it's the best thing that could ever happen. Like getting fired, getting divorced, having a girl screw you over, kick you out of her house, losing something, this stuff can be gold later because you realize when you get out after you, not always, I'm saying there are situations where you might realize that you actually were in a situation that totally sucked and you couldn't see it at the time. You knew you were uncomfortable. You knew that it was a dark period in your life, but you couldn't figure out why. And then later on you get perspective and then you realize why it was not what you're made for, right? So that torpedo, and I talked a little bit about this, but most people, oh God, I totally lost what I was going to say. I started thinking about this other concept, which is related. And I should actually make another video. Actually, I should really think about this one. I'll end it here and just say that the confidence is, if you have nothing else to hold on to, right? From all these things I said, don't give up. If you know that you're on the inner tube and that a brighter day is going to come later, and I'm not saying wishful thinking, I'm saying the truth about life is that it always changes. So, I'll end on this. This is one of the best things I ever heard. This guy, I was super miserable about something. And I said, I feel terrible. I'm in so much pain. This is the worst thing. I can't stand it. I was telling this old guy. And then he looked at me. His name was Joey. Joey, he was like 80 years old. He goes, wow. He goes, you think you're in the beginning of the pain, the middle of the pain, or the end of the pain? And I was thought about it. I was like, wait a second. I said, I actually think I'm in the middle going towards the end. And I thought, okay, then you're almost done, and it was like, I realized like that because my brain was telling me I was still in the beginning again, but actually I'd gone through a lot of stuff. I had already dealt with a lot of stuff and I was getting towards the end of it because I know myself. I don't stay in things forever. Everything changes, right? And you can feel like the pain is really painful. And then it kind of like over time, it dissipates, and sometimes with very, very painful spikes of pain. But in the end, most things get better. Okay, I won't say all things. There are some type of emotional abuse, which is a different thing, which I can talk about. It's a very specific topic, so I won't go into it now. But 99% of things in life is that they work just like Joey said. And man, he was right. And it just released me because I was like, I'm almost done with the pain. If Joey would have said this, if Joey would have said, hey, you dummy, you're almost done with this. You'll be done with this soon. It wouldn't have worked. But he just said, are you in the middle, beginning, the middle, or the end? And just thinking about it, there was, pain has a beginning, pain has a middle, pain has an end. Oh, never thought about that. Holy moly. Okay, where am I? I thought about it. And I realistically said, I'm probably past the middle already, And I said that through my own analysis, which was accurate. In fact, the pain was gone like 10 minutes later. Once I realized that I was over the hard part and that I was the only one holding on to it, So I was able, so these are all dots. Everything I said today is dots in the picture to create that confidence. You need, that's what I would say is try to practice these little dots, and then each dot together will make a beautiful painting of confidence for you. And I think holding on and realizing that it all doesn't matter are probably, and not in the nihilist sense, in the sense that you don't even know your great grandparents' lives, names, wishes, dreams, successes, what time they got married, what they thought about this, their political beliefs, their health, you don't know anything, right? And in that sense, it's like one of my favorite movies of all time, which is The Unbearable Lightness of Being. It's probably my favorite movie of all time, and it's set in Czechoslovakia in 1968, and it's just like the lightness of life, It's just life is just like that. It's light. It's ever changing, So that's what I'm going to end on. But I got one. Looks like my friend's writing some notes. My friend's writing some notes here, so I'm going to have one more idea here. Okay, all right, guys. Hey, thanks for listening, and I hope that was helpful. I'd love to hear what you think about that. And there's probably a lot more in my brain. So if you have any specific questions or something was not clear or whatever, this one is a very good topic, actually. And I have much to learn, too. So if you have anything that this sparked off for you, you're like, wait a second. This is my secret. He didn't talk about this one. Here's what I do, right, to get confidence and to overcome the difficulties in life and come back from almost impossible situations. And I tell you, in the end, I really am like a guy crawling across broken glass in the desert. I will just keep going. You know what I mean? I'm just going to, you can't stop me. Like, no matter what, I'm never going to give up. Like, no matter how bad it sucks, no matter how painful, no matter how stupid I look, no matter how much money I lose this, I don't care. And I mean that in the spiritual sense. I don't mean that in the alive sense. My spirit, I'm going to find another way to get back somehow, right? Right now I'm crawling over broken glass in the desert, but I'm going to somehow find some water. I'm going to somehow get to a point where I can get my energy back. I'll eat a lizard or something. I'll eat a snake. I'll find some way, a tarantula. I'll eat something to get some protein. I'll eat some cactus. I'm gonna somehow survive the cuts I get when I'm scraping on the desert floor and the glass and everything. I'm gonna somehow find a peaceful place, and eventually I'm gonna get a couple hours of sleep, and then I'm gonna do something else, and I'm gonna do something else. So it's not like a beauty pageant type of answer. It's a grinding answer. It's a grinding answer to confidence. That's the bottom line.